Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Boom Boom Show. It's a pleasure for me to have with us tonight Mr. Orville Brown that wrote a fantastic book and a play about Toussaint Louverture, and he's going to tell us all about it. Orville, bienvenue, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. I'm doing fine. And yourself?
I'm doing great. I heard that you are in Jamaica, beautiful Jamaica.
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. We're neighbors. So
Exactly.
tell me a little bit about you. What do you do and how did this whole thing start?
I'm a career high school teacher, 40 years in the teaching profession, most of it in Jamaica, and some of it in New York and Connecticut. Writing has always been my passion, and I progressed from writing a collection of short stories to writing quite a number of historical plays. And one of the most important plays I've written, and which has meant most to me, and into which I put the most passion, is the story of the Haitian Revolution.
Which is
I
beautiful.
published it recently under the title Toussaint and Other Heroes of Haiti's Revolution.
Which is my background there.
Exactly. And I regard that revolution as one of the most important events in human history for quite a number of reasons.
And you're Jamaican yourself?
Yes, Jamaican born and raised. I migrated to the United States in 1998, and I have come back home after 27 years.
That's a beautiful place to be, you know.
It is.
Our islands are very beautiful. So what got you interested in Toussaint Louverture?
As a teacher of history, I had to make myself familiar with the history of the Caribbean, of Europe, of the world. And in the story of the Haitian Revolution, I found tremendous interest in myself and in my students, because it really was a world, an earth-shaking event.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
It was the first successful revolution of enslaved people, and it created the first Black republic in the world. And the repercussions from that revolution touched and shook up the whole of the Americas. Haitian influence, should I continue?
Yes, please.
Haitian influence on America began before the 1791 Haitian Revolution, when a contingent of Haitians went to support the Americans in their War of Independence. It was a war in which Henri Christophe served as a drummer boy, and they fought in the important Battle of Savannah that broke the back of the British invaders and allowed America to become a free and independent nation. The 1791 revolution succeeded in 1804 when Haiti declared itself an independent state. And Haiti was not the only beneficiary of that revolution, because once the Haitians had established their independence, they sent men and money to support Simon Bolivar in his effort to liberate the Andean nations of South America from Spanish rule. It influenced the 1831 rebellion in Jamaica, where Sam Sharp led several thousand of the enslaved people in a rebellion which, although it was put down, it put the fear of God into the British, and they immediately set up a committee to draft what became the Emancipation Act of 1834. The revolution again influenced America in John Brown's attack on Harper's Ferry, 1859 or close to that date.
Right.
He was inspired by Toussaint to lead the attack on Harper's Ferry. And although that failed, it was one of the tapers that lit the flames of the American Civil War, which ended in the liberation of the enslaved people in that country.
That is amazing. That's so interesting. And so you then, I know you still have more to tell me, but
yes.
That ended up being a play?
Yes. Because I was tempted to write it in a book, but there are other books about it, one by C.L.R. James, the Trinidadian author. There is Madison Smart Bell, an American, and another American academic. But I'm attracted to plays because the spoken word is more impactful on the mind.
That's true.
Than the prose written in a book. And a play can, with the help of God, be made into a movie and reach an audience far beyond what is possible with your normal book.
And has that play started already, or are you in the process of putting it together?
Well, the play has been published and will appear like other plays in the bookshelves of high schools and colleges.
Mm-hmm.
It is on Amazon, but I'm still waiting for somebody to discover its potential for a blockbuster movie and buy the film rights from me.
And but I know some other people that have tried and that are also still trying to do something about Toussaint Louverture. Some other Haitians that have written about that. Now, are you going to put yourself with them in order for you to make it a bigger play that can be more international?
I'd be interested in doing that, but I don't know anything about those persons.
Right.
So perhaps if you could put me in touch with them, we could make the contact and get the ball rolling.
I know a gentleman he's a French gentleman, but he grew up in Haiti and lived in Haiti, by Claude Mancuso, that was very interested in doing something like that. But I'll put you in touch with him. So now the book is out. How do people get your book? How would they get it?
It is available on Amazon.
All they have to do is
type in my name and the title, and the book will appear.
And the name is ORVILLE Brown, Toussaint Louverture, and other
heroes of Haiti's revolution. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So besides that, tell me, when you were growing up, were you very much into history? Did you like that very much at school? How did you get interested in history?
History and literature were always my passion. And as a high school teacher, I've taught always some combination of history, literature, and world affairs. So it was a natural process that would eventually lead to me wanting to write this play.
And for example, for us in the Caribbean, I'm sure that pretty much every one of those islands of the Caribbean have a different history, but that probably resemble each other. I think we pretty much are all descendants of slaves and descendants of Africa and all that.
Yes, there's a common pattern of resistance to slavery in the region. In Jamaica, one commentator said, the people never accepted their enslavement, and it was rebellion after rebellion, and the only peace that's obtained was between the crushing of one rebellion and the outbreak of another. And it leads me to something else I wanted to say about the Haitian experience or the Haitian achievement. It was very important because it showed the enslaved people in the region that there was an option, and freedom was the option. And the Haitians really distinguished themselves by beating Napoleon's finest in the field of battle. And people say, well, okay, men can fight. So what's new about that? What's new about that is that the Haitians proved themselves also in the realm of ideas, because they wrote a constitution which was far in advance of the American Constitution. In advance of the American Constitution, from the point of view that the Constitution gave women equal rights with men to participate in public affairs. The American women had to wait until 1920.
And Haiti did that since 1804.
Exactly. Before 1804, the Constitution was drafted about 1799, or before the betrayal of Toussaint Louverture, which did very much derail the revolution. Toussaint had the Constitution written and presented it to the Haitian Assembly and told them this is a more advanced constitution than the Constitution of the United States of America.
Wow, that is a and Haiti, they had a lot of women that participated in the revolution as well.
They earned their rights to equal participation in public affairs because they fought alongside the men.
Yes. And I also have a friend here that I'll put you in touch with, called Carol Demismet, that is going to be doing also something, and a huge statue and a whole project in the north of Haiti, about the women that helped in the revolution, and that we don't really talk about, that we don't really put in the books and all that.
That is true.
So that's going to be. I think that your book might start quite a very nice movement, and also a nice participation amongst us Caribbeans.
Yes.
And that would be some beautiful things to see. All of us getting together and getting into each other's history, and helping grow and teach the youth a little bit more about it.
Yes, and we Jamaicans acknowledge our special relationship with the Haitian Revolution, because
Indeed.
Once it succeeded, the Jamaican planters knew that their days were numbered, that eventually the example of Haiti would be followed by the enslaved people in Jamaica.
That is fantastic. So what have you learned from your book? What have you learned what have you discovered from what you wrote, from your researches, from everything that you've put together? Because in order for you to write about that, I'm sure that you've done a lot of studies, and you had to go back and consult people, historians too, and other historians, and people that, and notes of people that probably are not here anymore.
Yes, I did. I learned many things, and it also taught me what Aimé Césaire, the mayor of Fort-de-France in Haiti, had to say, which is that there is room for, yes, no race has a monopoly of beauty and intelligence, and there is room for all nations at the rendezvous of success. That's a quote from Aimé Césaire, the former Black mayor of Fort-de-France, the French overseas possession. And it was very important for me to hear that and to tell that to my students as I taught them history. Because men who had been bound and degraded by the slave system rose up, broke the change, and prove themselves equal of mankind everywhere else, equal in fighting prowess to defeat Napoleon's finest, and equal in ideas to write an advanced constitution. So the lie of, they made Black inferiority, they gave the lie to the myth of Black inferiority. All men are gifted. I mean, Confucius himself said it in a different way. All over the world, men's natures are the same. It is their habits that make them different. And when you add what Aimé Césaire says, you have a very powerful statement. No race has a beauty of monopoly and intelligence, and there is room for all nations at the rendezvous of success.
That is heavy. That is quite heavy. So until the play takes birth, I'd say, what are you going to be doing? Are you going to write another book, or are you going to continue?
I'll continue teaching and writing, because this is not the only play I have written. I've written several other plays. I've written. Can I show it on your screen?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Feel free. We're there to talk about you.
This is the story of the rebellion of enslaved people in Jamaica.
Put it a bit louder, a bit higher. Yes. Okay.
And this is what led to the liberation of the enslaved Africans in Jamaica.
Okay.
Baptist War, they called it. There were inspired by their Baptist faith, and they call it the Baptist War.
Tell me a little bit about this book before you go into the other ones. We'll talk about each one of them.
Yes.
Hey, listen, I want you to be able to get a good exposure.
Yes, well, an interesting story leads up to the writing of this book, because in 1809, a British planter in Jamaica sailed from one point in Jamaica to deposit goods in Port Royal. He went ashore to clear the goods and left the enslaved Africans in charge of his sloop, confident that he'd come back and find them there. He had no idea that the Africans had watched his every move and knew how to sail the sloop. They sailed away to freedom in Haiti. And this British planter, I forget his name, went to Haiti to claim his sloop and to claim what he thought was his human property. And he was told, you can have your sloop, sir. But once these men set foot in Haiti, they became free men. You cannot have them.
Yes, that's fantastic.
The name of the boat was the Deep Nine. And that was very inspiring. And I went from there to study what happened in Jamaica in 1831. Samuel Sharp was a Baptist lay preacher, eloquent, and who had educated himself by reading the books available in his owners, the man who had slaved in the man's library. He had been a very nice, personable little lad, and he got access to the man's library. And the man's wife taught him to read. And as he grew into manhood, he came to the conclusion that the enslavement of one man by another was wrong, and that the people had a right to reclaim their freedom by petition, and where petition failed, they had the right to fight for it. And he used the Baptist circuit, church circuit, to preach this message to his fellow Africans. And in Christmas 1831, he led them in rebellion. They defeated the militia, they defeated the local British garrison, but they were eventually routed by superior numbers and the superior discipline of the English soldiers. Mm-hmm. But they did damage which was calculated at £1 million, and they destroyed a third of the active sugar estates in Jamaica. And this so alarmed the British that within months of pacifying restoring peace in Jamaica, they established a parliamentary committee that drafted the Emancipation Act of 1834. He's one of our national heroes, and it's a heroic story. And I wrote his farewell speech from the gallows, if you'd like me to read it.
Yes, please do.
All right. This day shall I be here transfigured, from Sharp the slave to Sharp the freeman, escaping bonds of slavery imposed by this plantocracy, that being Black and African, am somehow less than other men, and must forswear my human rights for whips and chains and dungeons nights. On pain of death, I still assert that God above made all men equal, to love, to hope, to think, to feel, and when we are wounded, bleed and heal. My life is forfeit since I spoke this truth and raised the slave yoke from my shoulders. Now I must fit the hangman's noose and leave this body here to molder. But soon the buried seed will spring, the eagle from the egg take wing. Soon God in his unfailing grace shall break the chains that bind my race. That is Sam Sharp's farewell. Yes.
That is beautiful. That is, wow, that's really beautiful. Excellent. Excellent. So give me another book now.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is something entirely different.
Yes.
It's a collection of short stories that I wrote to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Jamaica's independence. The title story is Sunday in Granny's Church and Other Stories. It relates the day my grandmother took me to church, her evangelical church at the age of 5, and how frightened I became at the hooting and hollering and prancing of the church members. And it has several other stories about coming of age in Jamaica.
Yes.
A sports day at the high school I went to. The shenanigans of an obeah man who deceives people and makes them feel he can cure their ills and hurt their enemies. And there are other stories. Sunday in Granny's Church is the main story. There's another story about the Maroons, the Maroon insurgency in Jamaica. There's another story called Cricketers' Class War. It relates to the prowess Jamaicans developed in playing the game of cricket and how they used it as a way to assert their equal status with their white rulers. Wow. And it's called Cricketers' Class War. And other interesting little stories of the Jamaican experience, a child growing up in Jamaica.
Do you have a little short one you could read for us?
Oh, I certainly would. And I'll read the first story.
Okay.
Which is about calling nicknames in the family and the fights that arise when brothers and sisters get angry because they're being called nicknames.
I know. Well, we all have nicknames.
My little brother Patrick had a terrible temper. He was the 7th in our mother Ruby's brood of 8 boys, fine-boned and fair-skinned like Granny, and because of his temper, the prime target for nicknames. Our brother Albert, the second in the lot, was the chief troublemaker and nickname caller. What's in a nickname? It is the way the world corrects the presumption of our parents who name us after presidents and heroes. Over the fine and dignified names we are given, our family or our community paste a derisive name based on our appearance or our personality. So a boy named for Lord George, the famous Liberal Prime Minister of England, might find his name corrected to Longmouth George. A skinny fellow named Manly Hopkins might find his name corrected to Bones. And through the entire lexicon of names like Tubby, Longers, and Sagohead. One of the wickedest names in the Jamaican lexicon and frequently foisted on older women is Mother Ratsbat, which is guaranteed to provoke a hostile response, a shower of profanities, and sometimes a shower of stones. Children in all ages have delighted in mocking older people with nicknames, hoping to be chased and then laugh as they scamper away from less than able-bodied pursuers. The Bible carries a salutary lesson about mocking old people in the story of Elijah, who was being mocked by a group of urchins. Go up, bald head, until they were eaten by a bear. That terrible example notwithstanding, name calling has been part of every culture through the ages. In Jamaica today, bald-headed men are still mocked, and their condition explained in terms of a relationship with chickens that decency forbids me to mention. 2 of the men in my village who were most offended by names were Dog Ears Mignots and another man named Forbes, who was called Rabbit because of the length and shape of his ears. The simple corruption of the name of a district constable named Emden would drive him into a murderous rage, cause him to alight from his ancient Morris Oxford and chase the offending urchins whenever they shouted, "Blem blem." And that's the part of the story of the name calling. I'll read a section from the lead story. Irvin and Albert turned onto Blount Street, trailing after Granny like chickens behind a hen, into the courtyard of the Ark, the Citadel, the headquarters of the City Mission Church in Jamaica, to find that the service had already started, and the walls were swelling and the roof was lifting to the mighty sound of the faithful throwing bombs in their war upon the evil one. Boom, 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 water, boom, 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 water, boom. The bombs were not the usual explosive variety. They were deadly spiritual bombs encased in water and mispronounced boom, as is the Jamaican inclination. I was frightened by the sound, as I am sure my brothers were, as we hid behind Granny's ample skirts and slid fearfully into the long pine bench pews at the rear of the church.
That is great. But you know, my nickname is Boom Boom.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Well, that's the sound we heard when we went into the church.
Oh,
They were throwing bombs against the devil, but they didn't say bombs. They said boom.
but mine is Boom, B-O-M,
I
B-O-M.
know.
That's so funny. So give me another book. That's really interesting.
All right. Cricketers Class War. '71. A lot of people were able to relate to Sunday in Granny's Church across cultures, because young people all over the world can relate to the day when their grandparents took them to church for the first time, and their reaction to the service they'd never been to before. All right, this is one of the stories that was highly favored by readers. Cricket as class war. Do you know the game of cricket?
I've seen it, but I don't know how to play it.
Okay. It's an English game and is popular wherever the British had their colonies.
Right.
It resembles baseball in some ways, but it is different in very significant ways.
Right.
You hit a ball with a bat and you run back and forth and score runs. Whereas in baseball, there's a diamond. In cricket, there's a 22-yard pitch with pins at each end, and you get the batsman out by knocking down the pins or hitting his legs in front of the pitch, or hitting his legs in front of the pins, or if you hit the ball in the air and a player catches it.
Okay.
This story is called Cricket as Class War. The game of cricket is a study in speed, skill, strategy, timing, teamwork, application, and grace, and is inspired by the concept of fair play. Exciting and pleasant as it is to watch as a game, it is a metaphor for life and a proving ground for a man. In the early years of the last century, when we were still a British colony, when the prevailing assumption was that the native was less gifted than the colonial master and needed an extended period of training in the management of his affairs, the cricket field was one of the few proving grounds where colonial could meet ruler face to face and test each other's mettle. The game became the first leveler in colonial society. This is the point made by C.L.R. James, perhaps the greatest writer to come from the English-speaking Caribbean, in his book, Beyond a Boundary. A lot of balls have been bowled down the pitch since those days. The former colonials now consider themselves masters of the state, but the cricket field is still a proving ground. Sometimes in these days, players from one social class engage with players from another, and the contest becomes more than a game, and in extreme cases, a war between the classes. Such a possibility arose in late 1969 when the construction of the all-part alumina plant at Nain in St. Elizabeth brought together people who in the normal course of things might never have had close contact with each other. The humble farmers and construction workers from the plains of St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland, generally speaking, provided the muscle for plant operations. The descendants of the coffee planters from Mandeville and its environments, generally speaking, provided the plant supervision and the brains of administration. It goes on to show how the contest went. It was a heated, even contest.
That's
and
true.
when it was going against the ruffians from the lower class, they became hostile and threatened the upper class men with violence. And
Yes.
the upper class men had to make an hurried exit at the end of the match for fear of being beaten.
So that's pretty interesting. So the broadcast is going to come to its end, but I really want to thank you. I want you to reiterate to the people that you're also looking for somebody that could help you produce the play.
Yes, yes.
And that they can find the book on Amazon, and it's Toussaint and the Heroes
and
of
other
Haiti.
Heroes of Haiti's Revolution.
This
book deserves to be a play.
ORVILLE Brown.
This book deserves to become a movie.
It should become a movie.
Exceptionally successful. It brings to life the heroes.
I will send you the number to those people that I told you that have started something, and you could talk to them, and you never know. One thing in Haiti we say l'union fait la force. I mean, unity is power. Exactly. And so I believe in that. But I really want to thank you for taking your time to speak to me today and speak to my téléspectateurs, my viewers, and I hope I'll have the chance to speak to you soon again.
I thank you for having me on your show. I hope it puts me in contact with people who have a similar interest in making a movie out of this play, and I'm very grateful, and I hope your listener enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so very much. You have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Talk to you soon.
How will I get a recording of this interview?
I will be sending it to you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.